morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Angela Barnes. I'm an account manager at Nolan Business Solutions. I'm joined today by Zoë Young from Draycir, who will be demonstrating two of their products. The first one being Spindle Professional, which allows you to send out documents via email from Dynamics GP, and the second one being Credit Hound, which is a collections management module, which eliminates the majority of the admin tasks associated with collecting payments. Please feel free to ask any questions, and you can also email me if you need any follow-up demos or pricing. I will now pass over to Zoë.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for that introduction there, Angela. So as Angela said, my name is Zoë. I'm going to be speaking to you today about two solutions, and mainly focusing about Credit Hound. After during these uncertain times, your cash flow is probably the most important thing that you need to look after, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So just to give you a little bit of background, first of all, on Draycir, who are the authors of the products you're going to see today. So hopefully you'll be able to all see my screen. I will just say to you, if you can't see my screen at any time or you can't hear me at all, if you use that chat window just to let me know, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But also if you've got any questions or anything like that, we can sort of go through those at the end as well. So as you can see from the snapshot, the business ourselves, we don't just work here in the UK, it's very much on a much more global scale. Our relationship with Nolan is simply that Nolan are accredited by Draycir, not only to sell our software, but also to install, configure, and also support the software as well. Okay, so the two products we're going to look at is Spindle and also Credit Hound. So Spindle, depending, you might already have it. It might be called Spindle Professional, or it might be under the new name of Spindle Document Distribution. It's exactly the same product. Now, you do get a limited version of Spindle Document Distribution within Credit Hound, but a lot of people like to buy Spindle separately because it will actually give you added benefits, not only before an invoice becomes due, but when it is overdue and you're chasing with Credit Hound, it will actually enable you not only to send out a chasing letter, but also to give your customer the corresponding invoice. Now, my background, albeit a long time ago now, but I was a credit controller. So there's nothing I don't know about credit control. I've heard every excuse there ever is, but I'm a true believer that even before an invoice becomes due, there are things to help to get it paid quicker. And by using Spindle, I can give you a few ideas on what that actually could be. As human beings, making life easier for someone, and if that just means something simple as in paying for an invoice, they're going to do it. So I'm going to share some ideas on what I mean by that. So Spindle Document Distribution is basically a nice, easy way to distribute any documentation from Dynamics GP or whatever other system you may be using, say, for example, to send out your sales invoice. It's actually the only product we do that can work across a wide range of all sorts of different systems. Now, why would I use Spindle to send out my invoices rather than Dynamics GP? Well, one reason for that is I can do lots of great things using Spindle. So not only can I send invoices, I can do my remittances, my purchase orders, whatever it is I'm sending out. I can send it out by email, or if it doesn't see an email address, it will then print it as well. Now, here's the clever part. So it's very good at archiving documents wherever you want them archived. So you might want them archived on your network somewhere. You might want them archived on SharePoint somewhere. So if you imagine you're sending out an invoice, it's now archived. What I could do, because I could use Spindle to send out my statements, when I send out my statements, it could also then have the corresponding copy invoices. So this is what I was going back to earlier, making life easy for someone. How many times do you send out a statement and then someone asks for a copy invoice? Not only is it frustrating for you, because you know you've sent them the invoice, of course, but frustrating for the person receiving it, because unfortunately, I'm already seeing more and more staff going back into furlough at the moment over the Christmas period. So if I was now looking after payments to my supplier and I receive a statement and I've got no idea where the copy invoice is, if you actually had sent me a statement with a copy invoice, guess what? You're going to be top of my list to send payment because I've got all the information I need. So this is what I was referring to about making life easier, and it could be something as simple as that. So the archiving, as I say, we can archive anywhere, whether it's somewhere on the network or whether it's on SharePoint, whatever document it's sending. If you want all your statements archived, you can, or your invoices, you can, or your remittances, you can, or you can choose just to send it out and not to archive it. Improving internal communications as well. So this is another thing. If you've got lots of people working from home still at the moment, like I am at the minute, so my accounts department never has to contact me to tell me which one of my customers have outstanding invoices because I automatically get copied in. So when they send out statements, if a statement's got overdue invoices, I actually get an email separately to my customer, so I'm aware of that. So even it's making my life a lot easier as well. The other great thing about Spindle as well, if you have multiple branding, Spindle can handle that. So whether it's on the actual report itself or whether it's within the email contact, it can handle that. And as you know, when you're emailing straight out of Dynamics GP, you can't actually do a nice HTML email. So it actually allows you to do that as well. Quicker payments as well. So if any of you already accept credit card payments, how do you accept it? Is it the case if I was your customer, I need to call you up in order to give you my card number? Is it when I want to pay by card, you then give them a link in order for them to go to it? So if you are taking card payments, with Spindle, you can actually put a pay now button on the invoice, the statement, a pro forma even, and also the credit hound chasing letters. So everything you're seeing on the screen there also applies when we're looking at Credit Hound as well. So the pay now button, all of the corporate identity, etc., copying in your colleagues and when chasing letters have gone out and things like that. So we're going to see some of this activity when we look at Credit Hound as well. But this is almost looking at even before it becomes overdue, what sort of things that you can do. So let's show you a couple of examples here. So this is an example of an invoice that I've previously just done. So as you can see, if I just click into it to open it, Spindle actually creates the body of the email itself, and you can have whatever it is you want. The logo itself, I have 3 different logos. I have a red pepper, a yellow pepper, and a green pepper. So dependent on an analysis code somewhere in GP, it can actually pick up the correct logo here and also pick up the correct logo on the invoice. This you'll see the same within Credit Hound as well. So what you can see here is a nice invoice just here, and I've got a pay now button. I've also got terms and conditions. Spindle's done all of that. The actual report itself is GP. So I've not done anything different there. It's just the distribution of it and also adding logos if needs be. So the pay now button works really, really well. So we work with 2 different merchants. We work with WorldPay and SagePay. So this one's just going to SagePay. I can click on it, fill in the details, done. Nice and easy if you're doing card payments. Once the payment's gone through, your customer will receive an email, and you would receive an email so you know payment has gone through as well. So just to give you another idea, when the invoice has gone out, that's already been archived somewhere. So it's sitting there waiting. But I've also said the salesperson for this particular account has also received notification that an order's gone through. So they don't need to be chasing up the accounts department. They can see something has been processed. And that is automatic. There's nothing else for the end user to do. You'll see it when I go into Credit Hound, how I actually action Spindle to send something out. Of course, when these invoices are archived, when I'm then sending out a statement, look at that. Not only have I got my statement, but I've got all my corresponding invoices to it as well. Now, if you ever have the example where you have a few customers where at any one time they've got 50 outstanding invoices, then you wouldn't want to put them all on there because you know you're not going to be able to send them out on Outlook, or they're not going to be able to receive it because of the size of the file on that email. So what we can do is separate automations for your different customers. You might want one group of customers to receive copy invoices and one customer not to receive them. So me as a customer, I could actually click into this statement. I've got a Pay Now button on there as well. So I just go to the last page. There's my Pay Now button. I just simply click on it. I can pay for my statement. The value that's on here is however it's been configured. So generally your outstanding value, that's what it would pick up. And also I've got all my corresponding invoices. So as I say, looking at, people working from home, do they archive their invoices somewhere? If the answer is no, well, that's when they're going to start requesting invoices from you. Actually, we don't need to. I've got everything I need in front of me. Okay. So making life easy for somebody to actually make payment. If that was just a statement with no invoices, you're going to be at the bottom of my list because I need to contact you to ask for copy invoices, etc. However, this way, I've got everything that I need. Okay. So Spindle, although it's a very simple tool to use, it can be very effective in many different ways. And that's just to give you a few examples, before we sort of get into Credit Hound itself. Okay, so we're still going to be looking at Spindle when we're looking at Credit Hound, but I just wanted to show you what happens before we get to this stage where a debt becomes outstanding. Okay, so what's Credit Hound? So Credit Hound is an ideal tool when you were looking at furloughed staff or staff working from home. Bringing everything together in one place is really, really important. If you've got people switching and changing, if you have staff going on furlough, it's going to be ideal. So the sorts of problems that we're coming against during this pandemic is that you can't get hold of your usual contact to chase for payment. It's going to be a common occurrence, especially when people are reducing their staff numbers, etc. So that can be a problem within itself. You can't get around to contact everyone that owes you money. Now, I would say pandemic or no pandemic, that has always been a case within credit control. It's very easy at the beginning of the day to look at your age debt report and say, right, these are the people I'm going to call. The reality is you probably end up getting around to calling 30% of them. So that leaves 70% that you need to then chase tomorrow, etc. Having no clear visibility of what's previously been chased. So if I was doing a job share with Angela, for example, we're both doing credit control, how can she see what I've already chased? Is that in a spreadsheet? Did I have the spreadsheet up to date? And of course, it's never up to date because it's an export from GP of the age debt, and it's only up to date for the moment that I actually did that particular report. So when if I'm passing that Excel spreadsheet to and from, is that an ideal way of doing it? From your customer's point of view, and this is the whole, they haven't got the invoices to hand to know what's outstanding. It's a common thing. Your customer has cash flow issues. Your customer is short staff and paying outstanding invoice is not the priority. Now you're probably thinking, well, how can Credit Hound help with any of that? Well, it can. So, not being able to get around to contact everyone, we can help in that because it can automate that process. Not having clear visibility of what's previously been chased, there's an audit trail, so everyone will be able to see that. So as I'm putting in notes now, Angie will be able to see that for when she takes over the following day, etc. The customers not having the invoice to hand to know what's outstanding will remember. If we've got those invoices in an archive, we can actually, when we're chasing, have those invoices on that chasing letter. Your customer has cash flow issues. Well, if you know about that sooner than every other supplier, the likelihood is you can start conversations with your customer much earlier, so at least you're getting something from them rather than finding out much later down the line and then you can't get any money from them. So remember that example I gave where actually I can only call 30% today. If that customer's cash flow issues was in that 70% that I didn't get a chance to call, and again tomorrow I didn't get a chance to call, tomorrow I didn't get a chance to call, tomorrow I didn't get a chance to call, it might be too late before I get to know about it. Whereas if I'm doing automated chasing, it's chasing for me. So actually, I'm going to know about that early on. If your customer's short staff and they're just, it's not their priority to pay outstanding invoices. It is their priority when you're chasing them. If you're not chasing them, you're at the bottom of the list. There's a lot of customers out there that actually will only ever pay once they're being chased. So if you know that they're automatically being chased, that's easy. You know that you're always going to be on their payment run. So Credit Hound itself sits outside of Dynamics GP. There's actually a connector in between. So I don't need to be getting all the information from GP and putting it into Credit Hound. It automatically comes through. Nothing goes the other way. We don't need it to go to the other way. Everything will stay within Credit Hound itself. And it means I can actually automate my chasing letters from Credit Hound. Now, you don't need to treat everybody the same. You set the rules on when they're going to be sent, which also then means you can have different rules for different types of customers. So there might be 10% of your customers you don't even want to use Credit Hound for because you're quite happy with the relationship you have with them. You don't particularly want to, send them automated letters or whatever. That's absolutely fine. Most people would choose to chase 100% of the people in this way, knowing that actually I might have 3 different groups of customers that I want to have different chasing cycles for and even different letters to go out for as well. You set the rules and for which types of customers as well. So this is what I'm referring to as well. Yes, you can send out a chasing letter, but it's almost like sending out the statement without the invoices. Are they still going to ask for copy invoices? You know your customers more than me. If you know that that is still going to cause a problem, then this is when you would need to have sent out your invoices using Spindle Document Distribution originally, so they're sitting in that archive. Then you can send out the chasing letter just with the invoice attached, which makes much more sense to me personally, because I know how many people use the excuse that they didn't have the copy invoice to hand. Easy payment. So we've already looked at this on invoices and statements, but we can use either SagePay or WorldPay and have a Pay Now button on all of your chasing letters. But again, we can ring fence certain customers. You may have just certain customers that pay by card, and it might be only those customers have the Pay Now button on their chasing letters, and that's no problem to do that. Because Credit Hound is automating the chasing letters, you might think, well, what's left for the credit controller to do? Well, there's going to be a stage, no matter how many chasing letters you send out, it's then going to be a time where actually I want Credit Hound to send out the chasing letters, but then if they still haven't paid, then I want to speak to them. And this is where the to-do list comes from. So the to-do list can automate a reminder to say, actually, they've had all the letters now can you speak to them? It might be just a reminder. It might be someone that said they've already paid, that they're going to pay next week. So let's put a reminder in there and it will remind me on that day to call them. The good thing is I don't keep having to look at GP to see if the payments come in, because actually it removes the task on my to-do list once the money's come in and it's been allocated to the invoice. That task would disappear. This is the bit that I really like in Credit Hound, and this is because I used to be a credit controller. We have a full audit history of every single transaction, and also what I can do is filter it so I can just see what's outstanding, because as a credit controller, that's all I'm interested in. So that audit history is going to give me all the information that's happened for that single transaction. So whether that's an automated chasing letter, whether that is just a manual note, or even a dispute as well. So we've actually got dispute tracking in here, or queries. So if somebody called me to say, actually, there's a problem with this invoice, I was promised a discount, I haven't got it on it, no problem, let's put it in dispute. Now, the reason why we've got dispute tracking on there is because you never want to send a letter to someone where something's in query or dispute. So actually, my rules, I can set it up to say to suppress a letter from a particular customer if the transaction is in dispute. Okay, so let's have a look at what Credit Hound actually looks like. So this is me logging in as my user. So if the case was there was myself and also Angela, we both had Credit Hound. It might be we look after different customers, and if that's the case, I would just see my customers at this stage, and Angela would see her customers. It might be we're seeing slightly different dashboards as well, because we can personalize this. Each box that you see on the screen here is a widget, and there's different widgets that you can bring through. You can move the screen around, etc., etc. So some of the information is coming in from GP. Some of the information is generated solely from Credit Hound. So for an example, that outstanding debt, if I went into GP for the accounts I look after, that's the outstanding debt. If I'm looking at all of the accounts, again, that's going to be the outstanding debt. The promised cash, on the other hand, is actually what's come through from Credit Hound itself. So as people are saying that they're going to be paying me, it will actually populate this. So if my financial director wanted to have a forecast, I can give a clear forecast. A lot of the areas on here that we're seeing has also got a report behind it, so we can drill down to see actually which accounts these are coming from, how much they're paying, etc. I can also see here a detail of my highest balance accounts. So these are the ones I really want to keep an eye on. I really don't want to see any yellow, because yellow means disputed. And also I can see if something hasn't been allocated in GP. It might be a credit note, or it might be a receipt that's not been allocated. I can also see for all of my money where everything is, I've got a value and a percentage as well. So before we look at the rules, I just want to show you the accounts list. So this accounts list just here is all of the accounts that have come through from GP. Again, I can personalize it. So the view that I have and the view that Angela has can be slightly different. And I can bring through whatever columns that I want to. Analysis codes we can bring through, and also category I've brought through, which is just something from GP, which acts very similar, from Credit Hound, which acts very similar than the analysis codes. You can actually see I've got some problem category just here, and it's just to show you how I can separate customers using rules as well. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. So within the rules here, this is just to give you an example how I've set it up, but there's no strict rules here. You already have a chasing cycle that you want to adhere to, or it might be you want to re-look at your procedure for your chasing cycles, because for most people, once you have a piece of software, it's much easier to manage these sorts of things. So to give you an idea of what I'm doing, I've got a preemptive letter. It's been something during this pandemic, it's something that people are doing more and more of. Just to sort of say, you know, you've got an invoice that's going to be overdue next week. I've attached the copy of the invoice. Any problems, let me know so we can get it resolved before the due date. So it's not really seen as a chase as such. It is in our eyes, but for the customer, it's a helpful email. It's also got the corresponding invoice to it. So I have everything to prepare for my payment run the following week. You don't have to do the preemptive letter. Again, this is just to give you ideas. So that's going to go out by email. If they still don't pay, I've then got my letter one, and I've got two different automations for that. I've got a letter one that contains card details and one that doesn't. So again, there's an analysis code to say which customers are going to fall at both of those letters. If they still don't pay, they've got a chasing letter 2. If they still don't pay, here's my to-do list. So hopefully, after 2 or 3 emails, they've already paid. So what's left for me to do is a lot less work, because actually these rules themselves, I can put these on the server and actually say when I want the letters and rules to be sent out. So it might be I want to send them every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10:30 maybe, something like that. So actually I don't even have to switch on Credit Hound, which means if I was off sick today and Angela was on holiday, our work would still being done in the background if these rules were automated and automatically sent out without us even turning on Credit Hound. So that's a huge benefit of Credit Hound itself. So how do we actually set the rules up themselves? Well, it's very easy indeed. If I just press edit, you'll see this example here. So at the bottom, I've got two boxes. I've got criteria and I've got action. So the criteria is made up of the type of account you want to chase and the sort of transaction you want to chase as well. So I've already put some things in here, but I can still change them. So the transaction overdue age criteria. So what this is referring to is the due date you have in GP. What do you want me to chase? And I've chosen from this list just here, greater than or equal to, remember I'm doing this preemptive, so I'm going to say -5 days. The other sorts of things I've put in here is if it's been disputed, don't include it. If I've chased them in the last, I'm going to say 10 days, that might mean I've sent them an automated letter or I've put in some manual notes as well. The other thing I want to add to this, and this is where I'm going to ring fence certain customers. So I could use an analysis code, or for me, I'm going to use the analysis code we have in Credit Hound, and I've already set these up. And if you remember from the list here, you can see them in the background. I have some that have got problem by them. So I'm only sending this preemptive letter just to my problem payers. Now that's my criteria set. The action is, of course, what you want to do. So I've already pre-configured several different letters within here. And of course, it's the preemptive letter that I want. So everything on here is completely configurable on how you do the rules. Even the letters themselves are completely configurable to your wording. Now, once they're set up, of course, you can put these on the server and they'd automatically run. I'm just going to show you manually what that does. If I just press run, it will go through every account, every transaction, picking up on that criteria. And it's already brought through a list. And as you can imagine, that is so much quicker already than just going through your age debt report. But the thing is, the next step is even easier because I've already templated these letters. So it's going to show me a preview and I'm just going to email them all out. It's really easy. I'm also going to show you now how you use Spindle. And this would be the same for your invoices, your statements from GP. You just always select print, and the print driver itself is called Spindle Pro Auto. It doesn't mean it's going to print it, just means it's going to the Spindle Pro Auto settings to have a look at the automations. Because as you can see here, I've got no branding on here. It's going to do that afterwards because I've got different branding for different customers as well. Now you can actually choose who the email goes out from. So that applies for your invoices, your statements, and even your Credit Hound letters as well. So what we'll be able to see on here is I've got mine going into my draft. It's only because it's a demonstration that normally goes straight out to your sent items, but it's useful for you to know. You can put them to your drafts for testing purposes. So clicking into this particular email, what you'll be able to see is I have actually been able to configure the content of the email just here. The actual letter itself is that one that I'd already pre-configured. There it is. It will bring through the invoice or invoices here, and it will total it for me as well. Actually, let me just show you that in a full view, because you can actually see it's put on the branding now as well. And also, it's got the corresponding invoice to it. So not only am I automatically chasing them, I've also got the copy invoice. So it could be this. All this email says is your attached invoice or invoices are due for payment next week. Please let me know if there's any queries. Otherwise, we look forward to your payment. And I'm only sending those to my problem customers. Even though it's sent all of these emails out here, what it's also done in the background is put that on the audit trail for every single one of those transactions or transactions. Okay. So my next chasing letter, let's just manually run those again. So you can see this has got a lot more in it because it's now not just the problem customers, it's including everybody. So again, if I just send those to Spindle in order for them to print to email out, if someone hasn't got an email address, it can print them out as well. When you're printing, it will not print the attachment. That's why emails are much better to work with because you can do more things with them. So we'll be able to see all of these emails going out now. So as you can see, this is so much easier than manually going through your age debt report. You've probably got a template that you're going to put on, but then you need to put all the invoice details and things like that. So it just streamlines that process. And of course, we've now got my letter 1 here. We'll just go down. What you'll be able to see, I've got my Pay Now button on there. So I can click onto there and it will take me straight through to SagePay or WellPay. And I've also got my corresponding invoice, which if it originally got sent with the Pay Now button, it's also got the Pay Now button there. I can also put the link to card payments within the content of the email as well. So they've got 3 attempts to pay for this. We're making it as easy as possible because remember, if you're making it easy for them, you naturally get your payments quicker. If we give your customers all the information they need, then fantastic. They've got no excuses at all. So my letter 2 works in much the same way. The only thing I'm doing here is actually changing the criteria. I'm just upping the criteria and just extending out that transaction overdue criteria. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same. The telephone chasing list, the only thing different that we're doing here is actually this action just here. And what I can do, and I could have done it on one of the other emails as well, I can actually write an email and then do a follow-up call to schedule it 2 or 3 days after, whenever it is you want to do. In my example here, what I'm doing is I've still got my criteria. This time it's going to bulk together everyone that is over 50 days overdue. And what I'm saying here in my action, not to write an email or print out a letter, to actually write me a task on my to-do list. And you'll see we've got lots of different activity we can do here. My category of being problem, it might be at this point just here that it could be going legal, for example, and I want to automatically change the name of the category to something else. It might be that when we've grouped the accounts to Zoe's accounts and Angela's accounts, Angela's looking after all those really overdue ones. So actually it's going to come off my ledger and it's going to go on to Angela's as well. We could do things like that. We might want to automatically put them on stop. That is the only thing that goes 2 ways, is putting an account on stop or off stop in GP. It will do it here in Credit Hound and also it will do it in GP as well. Okay. So if I run this rule, the only thing different is no emails are going to go out. So, but it's recreated the rule. Exactly the same if I'd done it on the server. And just to show you what it's done, on my to-do list, I'd actually now have a list of all of the people that I need to contact today. So if I just go into this to-do list here, just go on today's date, as a credit controller, that's the work that I need to do. So even though I've spoken a lot about what Credit Hound does, sort of the setup of rules, how rules are sent out, etc., imagine if you've got those set up on your server to automatically to go up, all myself and Angela needs to do each day is to come into here. You can see the tasks have been assigned. So I'd have my list, Angela would have her list, and these are the things that we need to do today. I can reassign some of my tasks to someone else if I need to. I can do that. Otherwise, I can just go into here and then create my tasks. So you can see these are from an automation. It says automated. At the bottom, it says callback. So that's me putting in that callback task from a previous conversation I've had with someone that said they were going to pay today. It's still there. So actually, I know they've still not paid, because if they had paid and the money had been allocated, it would disappear off this to-do list because I don't need to know about it because it's already been paid. So the way this list works is I could just click into it and go to the Chase account, and it will show me the account, in my case, for Festival Homes. And at the top, we can see all the transactions that are outstanding. In the center is actually the audit trail for the transaction I'm highlighted on. And at the bottom, I've got all the information about the account, the address details, the contact details, age, debt, turnover, analysis code, disputes, etc. So we're going to be looking at this Chase button in just a moment. So for me, looking at this screen here, I'll be able to see if there's an existing promise for any cash. That's me previously speaking to somebody and they said they're going to pay a certain amount of money on a certain date. I would see that just here. The flag indicates a dispute. If I click onto that, these are the details of the dispute, when the dispute was raised, what the dispute was about, and what had been happening. This symbol here just simply indicates there's some history on the account. And in this example here, it's to say an automated letter, which was the preemptive letter, which is what I called it earlier. You can see that that letter went out there. So when it had already sent out that letter, it's automatically stamping this transaction here, so I know a chase has been made. If there's no symbols on the right-hand side at the top here, it means there is no audit trail. Okay. So if I'm wanting to write some notes here, I need to press Start Chase first of all. That Start Chase will then allow me to add some notes. The reason I'm pressing Start all the time is because it's only a full system user, which is the license that I'm using at the moment, that can actually write notes in this section. One very good reason for that is, remember, I had a rule that said if I've chased them in the last, and I changed it to 10 days, and to exempt them from the rule. And it means that I've typed in here or an email has gone out. So it's only a full system user that can type into this box here because it has an effect on the chasing cycle. Everyone else, all the different user types can put a note in, and they can put it in using this section here. It has no effect on the chasing cycle, and we'll be able to see all the notes still in the audit trail. If I wanted to put this same note on several transactions, that's fine. I just highlight them all, and it will replicate the note here on every single audit trail. It's also adding up the promised cash here for me as well. So when is it they're going to pay? They're going to pay by next Tuesday. And then what time do I want this reminder in my diary? I want this in my diary at 11 o'clock because I know the cash is posted by then. It's going to automatically create a reminder. So on my to-do list, that callback, this is exactly what it's going to do. Now, if I press Stop Chase here, it will actually allow me to follow up with a chasing letter if I wanted to. Let me just go through that again. Just add some notes on. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, so next Tuesday, there we go. Okay, so I've now got lots of different follow-up letters. If I'd already highlighted on those 3 invoices and they just wanted a copy invoice, remember, I'd need to have put Purchase Spindle separately, but this will then allow me to pick up those invoices that have previously been archived and send them out. I don't need to do anything else. It's already templated. I just want to follow up with them. So I've already got templated emails, so it's a lot less work for me to do. It will give me a preview. Let's just send that to Spindle in order for it to send out. And then let's have a look at that particular email that's gone out. Okay, so we'll just wait for that email to come through. There it is. So I've probably just spoken to them. If we look at the letter itself, it will just give the detail. So that's how much they said they were going to pay. This is the invoice they're going to pay. If I'd still highlighted on all 3 invoices would actually be listed here with the total amount here. The promise by date is there, and also I have automatically put on the copy invoices as well. Again, if all 3 invoices were still highlighted, it would actually bring through all 3 invoices here. So I know they've got all the information. Whether they've asked for a copy invoice or not, I'm still attaching the copy invoice. Now, someone's just asked the question that if I don't already have Spindle, what will this look like? Well, it will simply be that you don't get that copy of the invoice. Just buying Credit Hound on its own will give you all that functionality. It's just if you want that copy invoice, you would have needed to send out the invoice first and foremost in order for that to be visible. Okay, but otherwise you can still send out the letters just using Credit Hound alone on its own. Now, with any to-do list, once it's done, we just tick complete, and that's then completed that task. It will take that task off, and I go on to my next task. It's as easy as that. So it really streamlines the job of a credit controller, and all that admin is gone because Credit Hound's doing it. So all I'm left to do is actually my to-do list just here. Now, if somebody called in and they had a query, that's fine. Let's go to the accounts list. Let's find the account, whether we're putting in the account number or just searching on the name. clicking it onto it will bring us back exactly to where we were just a moment ago. And what you'll be able to see now, my promised cash, I can see that's there. I can see my notes that I added, and also it even says that I followed up with that email as well. Now, if they had a dispute, I can also do that from this screen as well. So I can just add a dispute. These dispute reasons are for you to alter yourselves. So if you have any particular disputes that you want to put in here, all of these are configurable. So what I can do is just pick whichever one it was. I can add the notes from the customer just here, and these are my notes to someone internal because I can assign it to somebody. So being the credit controller, they're talking about a discount that they haven't had. Well, that came from the salesperson itself. So I'm actually going to assign this to the salesperson. So now what we can do, as with everything in Credit Hound, everything's templated to make life easier. So there's a lot less admin. I've actually got templated a letter to the customer. I don't have to send it. I've got a letter to the customer and internally as well. So actually, it's now going to pick up all the information that I've put in Credit Hound, and it's now going to email the customer and also that internal person. Everything has been recorded, and most importantly, my rule will mean that that particular dispute, that transaction, now I've got the dispute in it, is not going to be chased. If I look at the emails that's gone out, the one to the customer, you can actually put who it's been assigned to if you wanted to as well. The letter that's attached will always give the finer detail. So on here, it gives all the information of the dispute, etc. You don't have to highlight it if you don't want to. Again, it's just to give you ideas. The person internally, they've received a copy themselves of the dispute. It's slightly different this time because they have the notes that I added in from the customer and also my notes as well. So hopefully they should have enough information now in order to help me with this. I have attached the copy of the invoice. This person might not have access to Dynamics in order to have a look at the invoice information. So by attaching the invoice, remember, we're making it easier for them as well. So they should have all the information there in order to email me back to say, actually, yes, this is right or wrong, or whatever the case may be. I can then, if I want to, resolve this dispute. Once I've resolved that dispute, I can still see the dispute because it's important, again, for me as a credit controller. Remember, I might have raised this dispute and then resolved it. If Angela then is coming to chase it, well, she still has knowledge that that has been in dispute before and that it has been resolved as well. Okay. So the last thing really that I want to show you today is actually the reporting side of it. So we've got lots of different reports within Credit Hound itself. Transaction Dossier tends to be the most popular report in here because we can see all the chasing information. We can see all the information related to every single account and every single transaction as well. We can obviously filter these out in any way, shape or form we want to. We can export it in any of these formats here, and we can email it in any of those formats as well. We can also see user activity, which is ideal if you have credit controllers working remotely. You probably don't want to keep asking them what they're doing, etc. So actually I can run a report and it will just show me that, you know, what it is they're doing. We can see the only person that's been working is myself here, but I can see all of the transactions that I've been chasing. I can see where I've been adding notes in as well. So I can see I'm using Credit Hound to its full ability as well. And then at the bottom, I've actually got some chasing information here. So I can see who's using follow-up letters. I can see who's using dispute report emails as well on there, and also how many letters I'm actually sending out at any one time as well. So I can get a clear picture of what it is my credit controllers are actually doing. We've also got other things that are really useful as well. So things like your dispute analysis. So, you know, how many transactions do we have in dispute? Because the whole time they're in dispute, you're not going to get paid for them. So it's important to keep an eye on there. Is there a certain reason why people aren't paying? So So for me, I've got lots of faulty goods. So have we got a problem with our supplier? If I need to see the notes on what people are putting in it, then I will actually be able to see all of those even within this report as well. The other side of disputes as well is what we have outstanding. So I can actually see a summary report of everything that's outstanding. So within here, I could actually see all of the outstanding disputes, who they've been assigned to, and also how old they are as well. So you can really keep on top of things like disputes and things like that just from using Credit Hound. Okay. All right. So Credit Hound itself, as you've probably seen, there's lots of different areas to it itself. If any of you want to sort of know more about Credit Hound, you might want to know how much it is, etc. If you just speak to Angela or one of the team, they'll be able to go through that with you. But also, if you want a one-to-one demonstration, I've just done a very generic demonstration there. But if you've got any specific requirements that you want to put by myself or Angela or any of the team, and you want to have a one-to-one demonstration with your team as well, then please let us know and we'll be able to get that organised.
Many thanks for that, Zoe. It was a very informative demo. I can see how these products can save our customers a lot of time. So yes, as Zoe said, those are my contact details. Please get in touch if you would like to find out about pricing or want a tailored demo. Thanks very much for joining and enjoy your Christmas.